Dead Man's Shoes, directed by the great Shane Meadows, starring Paddy Considine, Gary Stretch and Toby Kebbell, tells the tale of a soldier who returns to his hometown to get even with the thugs who tortured his mentally challenged brother. So, Dead Man's Shoes was Shane Meadows' follow-up film after he made Once Upon a Time in the Midlands, which was his first and only studio movie, and he absolutely hated the experience, despite making what I think is a really good movie and really different, poles apart from his other movies that he made in his career. And I kind of wish he would have had a better experience, so we could have seen a few more bigger budget, more ambitious Shane Meadows movies. But nonetheless, he hated the experience, and Dead Man's Shoes was essentially a reaction to that movie. He hated the studio system so much that he just wanted to go back to having his independent roots and making what was originally supposed to be a short film. And it was devised along with Paddy Considine and one of his other long-term writing partners. As we know, what started as a short film eventually expanded and became a full feature, which, to be honest, actually shocked him how successful Dead Man's Shoes ended up being. It was mainly just meant to be a bit of a creative outlet to let some of his frustrations out after the frustrations he had with Once Upon a Time in the Midlands.
Yeah.
And he actually delayed filming on Once Upon a Time. He delayed filming, on This Is England.
On This Is England, okay.
Because he said, okay, this has been so much more successful than I thought. We should get a proper DVD release and try and take it to some festivals and stuff. When did you first see Dead Man's Shoes?
Right, I was racking my brains about this earlier. It's kind of like one of the films that just comes to your doorstep kind of thing. I think it was in BTEC Media, when we used to do BTEC Media. Someone used to bring in DVDs, and someone bought in was like, Dead Man's Shoes, and then whacked it on, and I just thought, it's brilliant. Like, it was one of those films where it came out in 2004, and that would have been about 2008 when you were talking about, and it was, for that period of time, it was never not on British television, and it was circulating on a DVD. Like, if you didn't own it, a mate was lending it to you. Yeah. Because extremely popular movie, especially among blokes, and especially among blokes who wouldn't necessarily be big film fans usually. It just resonated with, found a mainstream audience. Probably in a way only other This Is England ever has for Shane Meadows as a director. But anyway, brilliant movie. And it starts off, we see Paddy Considine's character Richard is coming back from the army. And you see him just walking through beautiful countryside in a montage over the opening credits, and it's spliced together with home video footage, grainy home video footage of him and his brother when they were young kids playing together. Yeah, so they're doing stuff like off to the beach, building sandcastles, lovely stuff with the scenery and the brilliant music. So kind of sets the scene of things to come, but doesn't at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's our introduction to him, and we first meet Anthony, Richard's brother, in this scene. And when I first saw this, and I think you were the same, I thought, because you sometimes get that in a movie where they might have a Down syndrome character or a cerebral palsy character, like in Breaking Bad, where they actually have that condition, they're not just acting.
Yeah, you can tell.
And when I first watched this, I immediately thought, oh wow, they've actually hired a disabled actor. Because I thought, there's no way this person isn't actually mentally challenged. And found out after it was an actor, and he was actually cast only the day before they started filming.
Do you remember when you came to our school and did that run, Richard?
I do, yeah.
Good day that was, wasn't it? You was the best. You earned the most money, didn't you?
About 300 quid, I think.
He's got the mannerisms and the way he acts as the disabled down to a T.
They ring so true that, like, we were talking.
Like, what disability does Toby Kebbell?
We were talking about it before, where for me, like, people talk about like Rain Man is a great performance, and it's a great performance in the context of the kind of movie it is. But when I'm watching it, I'm watching acting. When you're watching Anthony being portrayed in Dead Man's Shoes, I don't feel like I'm watching acting. Yeah. I feel like that is a disabled
Genuine
person, and it's
yeah.
playing out. And part of it is because Shane Meadows' style is all about authenticity and improvisation, and his movies always feel like that. The characters always feel incredibly realistic. The dialogue and the interchanges always feel very realistic, and part of that is because they get to improvise lines. Also, he's a master of setting the conditions for good improvisation.
Yeah.
Because one of the things he always does with his cast is he sends them off on a holiday or a couple of weekends away or a couple of nights out, in order so that by the time it comes to filming, they already have a bunch of inside jokes, they already have a bunch of stories, they already have a bunch of nicknames for each other. So it all rings true when you're actually seeing it play out.
And by nights out, like, you mean they'll go after the booze? Or,
Yeah,
like,
go get hammered.
Messing
fucking,
about, yeah.
Basically, create a couple of memories, create some stories.
Yeah, create some...
Get well past that sort of getting to know you small talk stage.
Yeah. Creating like cohesion and like, you know, a point going back on Toby Kebbell just popped into my head. I read, because this is when I first watched it, that he got a script, and you said he was cast like the day before, so he got cast and he was going down and he started perfecting all these mannerisms on the train journey down. So he was doing.
Yeah, he must be getting some fucking looks.
Yeah, all that like. So it really is like an amazing performance. I think.
It's outstanding.
I think both Paddy Considine and he got nominated for a BAFTA for Best Actor, and Toby got nominated for Best Supporting Actor because of his performance. They didn't win, but it was, that's how good it was.
He is the best thing in the film. Toby, he really is. Like he's phenomenal, and there's a lot of great things in this film. But he does stand out. Not necessarily the most memorable thing, the thing you remember years later, but when you're watching it, it's just, especially the first time, it's remarkable. That piece of acting.
It is.
So anyway, so the film opens, and the premise of the film is that Anthony's special needs brother, while he's been away with the army, has been getting abused and mistreated by the local gangsters and thugs. Yeah. And it's this horrible little group who are in this deprived little going nowhere, middle of fucking nowhere town in America.
Town in America. I think it's Yorkshire.
Town in...
Or Derby, or
one
of those...
it's the Midlands somewhere.
Lovely scenic places.
The point is, it could be loads of places, but it's generic, deprived, middle of nowhere area up north in the Midlands. And he comes back and he's after revenge. But at the start we don't exactly know why. Yeah. Like, we know they've been mistreating him, and we see in a series of flashbacks that unfold that they were mistreating him horribly, but we don't know what they've done necessarily that was so bad. Yeah. And we also don't know how far Richard's willing to go with his revenge. Yeah. But it's called Dead Man's Shoes, and it's a revenge movie, and it's rated 18, so we pretty much know. Yeah. He's going to do something bad. Gonna be,
and I think the poster and the DVD cover is like the geezer with
him standing with an axe,
with a huge axe, and the tagline is "He's in all of us." So you're like, right, this geezer's gonna kill someone at some point. Like,
so we get to our first exchange between Richard and one of the gang. And it's Herbie, who's a bit of he's not a gangster so much, he's more of a scumbag, small-time drug dealer. Not actually a tough guy.
Bit of a gangster dog's body. Like
exactly.
Dog's body, kinda,
So he walks into this local boozer and he's sort of walking around, proper shithole sort of pub. And he's walking around and he notices Richard's in the corner with his brother. And his brother sort of goes, "Oh, that's one of them."
He goes, "That's one, bruv." Like,
so Richard turns his chair and just faces him and he just stares at him blankly.
Yeah, I can have two.
Sweet. Cheers, geese. Can't we, mate?
Sorry.
The fuck are you looking at? You cunt!
And it is fucking...
And then I was like, even like me sitting in my chair when I first saw it, I was like, fuck
yeah. It is intimidating.
Yeah,
the thing about this movie is, Richard's definitely the hero of the piece. Anti-hero, hero, whatever you want to call him. And you root for him. Yeah. But he is scary. And he is... It's essentially a reverse slasher movie where you're following Michael Myers and he's the one justified.
Yeah. Again, it's hard to explain and you'll really get the feeling. You can only get the feeling by watching it. But to carry on your point, he's scary, but he's also very, very unnerving.
Yeah.
Like literally the way he's 1 minute nice and the next minute fucking yeah.
He's jarring. But he does it all with a level of charisma as well the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Janet loves alfresco fun, so why not join her as she spreads herself wide in the open air? What's alfresco?
Alfresco, that's up your anus, isn't it?
So anyway, so Herbie goes off to his mates, and he's goes off and he's doing drugs and whatever, and he's in a little high-rise flat, and he's chatting to him, and he's telling him the story from earlier, where he ran into this guy who freaked him out, and they're sort of giving it all that, what I would have done if I was there, all that sort of shit.
Yeah, they don't understand. It's like, hang on, so he's called you a cunt, and then
you're shaking his hand,
and then you,
him.
yeah.
But anyway, but he says, I've been racking my brain who it is, and I think it's Anthony's brother, and they all shit themselves. And this is the first time you're getting a feeling of
silent.
There's an elephant in the room that you the audience isn't privy to, that everyone else is. Like, you don't know what's happened. You know Anthony's not dead, because he's with his brother and he's chatting to him, but you're not sure what's happened. Yeah. So anyway, so Herbie goes to leave. He's all off his tits on coke, and he goes to leave, and he sees Richard waiting outside for him in a gas mask. And he freaks the fuck out. He runs back upstairs. He tells the others. They come out. Yeah, he keeps saying, it's the Elephant Man. Because he's off his tits. The gas mask sort of looks like the Elephant Man.
It does look like it.
It does, to be fair. So they all run out. Look for him, can't see him anywhere. But when they come back, they realise Richard's been in their room, spray painting stuff on the wall, and stolen all their drugs.
It's not technically their drugs. It's like they're the big
from
big
the big
boss,
top man.
Top man. Why does Richard always wear that gas mask? Just to like freak him out?
I'd say because it visually looks really fucking menacing.
Yeah, because he wears it like throughout the whole film, basically.
Yeah, well, why does Freddy Krueger wear his fucking little gloves?
True.
Why is
he looks menacing without it, to be honest.
He looks fucking a lot scarier with it. Like, he's burning around with an axe. So anyway, they've lost their drugs, so they're like, fuck, so we got to go explain this.
Yeah.
To the top man.
That's another what.
So they head down there. So they head down there the next morning to the top man. And they knock on the door, and they sharpen their beat up little beetle, and they're all terrified.
They look like idiots.
They're worried about knocking on the door, and they're clearly scared of this guy. And then he opens the door, shouting, and they all back off scared, and he's got clown makeup all over his face. And they're like, what the fuck's going on here?
Who's banged on that fucking door, you? Hey? What's over here? Who's banged on the door, man? Well?
You're right, man.
I'm alright, what do you want?
Yeah, and they're kind of like trying to process, because they're like, we got to tell this geezer that we've lost £1,000 worth of product.
Well, it's one of those things.
Like, got a clown face on, so they're like looking at each other. Like,
so they get in, and he's real. They've told him about the clown makeup. He's wiped off, like, what the fuck? And he's losing his rag with the man who's lost all his drugs.
Yeah, because basically he's like, can you stop fucking saying elephant?
Yeah, because he's trying to explain it, and he's like, and then the Elephant Man showed up, and he's like, right, I'm trying to be calm.
Yeah.
But you've lost all my drugs, and then you're talking about the Elephant Man.
Because
like,
in the Beatle before, they're saying like, do not mention the elephant, and then they're kind of like there on a sofa and they hear it, and they're like reading a magazine. Like, I told him not to mention the elephant. It's just funny.
So while this is all going on, two other of the big gangsters show up, and they show up. And they fucking start trying to attack Herbie and the other two. Because they're saying, these fucking idiots have been playing pranks on us again. And he pulls his hat off.
They clearly
and one of them's had his hair dyed rainbow colours. And the other's had knobhead painted on the back of his suit.
Yeah.
Which he continues to wear for the rest of the movie.
I know, it's like a bit embarrassing, eh? But maybe like he had to go to like from the Yorkshire moors to like Mossbros in like London, so that's his only suit.
Fuck no.
And he can't be bothered to go.
But anyway, so but then they're all shouting at each other. But then Herbie tells them the story from the other day, and he says, "I'm telling you, I think it was Anthony's brother." And again, they all have that moment of looking at each other like, "Oh shit, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
And so again, there's that elephant in the room. Like, what's happened? What is going on? That's so bad. Like, why are they so shook up by this? By him being back in town?
Yeah, because you're like, why? Well, number one, you're like, why is Richard like doing this?
Yeah.
And you're like, they must have done something, but you just can't put your feet.
Yeah.
It's slowly unraveling.
So they're all, obviously at this point it's kind of a bit comical nearly, because they've just been having stuff painted on them and whatever.
Yeah.
But someone's broken into their homes while they're asleep and stuff, so they are quite a bit like, what the fuck? So they're like, let's drive around and look for him. And they find him pretty much straight away. They drive down a street and they see him just hiding on the corner.
Like, let's not get it twisted. Richard wants to be found.
Yeah.
He's not. He's not scared at all.
More or less, Richard acts like a ninja in this movie. Anything he wants to happen, more or less, happens.
Basically, he is like a Batman kind of character.
Yeah.
He just comes out of nowhere, and they're like,
He's got the mask and everything.
Yeah.
So they show up.
Richard is basically, into context, like on the high street of this like place, like the middle of the busiest road. He knows they're going to find him. He's standing there against the fence. Like,
so he tells Anthony, go hide around the corner.
Go down there, bro.
Anthony goes hides around the corner, and the top man gets out, and all the other ones are stuck in the car, like watching it, trying to size up what's happening.
It's like bravado. It's like, I'll do all this, lads.
Yeah. So he bowls up, and he's trying to intimidate him, and he tries a bunch of different tactics, and nothing works. Like he says, first of all right, Richard, listen, a couple of lads had this crazy idea, and he cuts them off, just goes, yeah, it was me. Straight away. And he's telling them, like, I'm staying up at the castle, come see me if you want, blah, blah.
I don't like being threatened, Richard.
I'm not threatening you, mate. It's beyond fucking words. I watched over you when you were asleep, and I looked at your fucking neck, and I was that far away from slicing it. You're fucking there, mate. So get in that car and fuck off.
People shit talk. Sometimes you fantasize that you're going to beat someone up and you shit talk inside your head. But there's something intangible where you can really tell when shit talking's authentic or not.
Yeah.
And even though you know it's acting, it feels fucking authentic when Richard is saying these threats to him. And he shits himself. He just gets back in the car and drives off.
Well, I would.
Yeah, anyone fucking
yeah.
So they're a bit freaked out, and they head over to play poker. And they're playing poker, and they're sort of deciding what they got to do about this.
Yeah, I think at this point now they are, like, the clown shit was one thing, like breaking into the house is one thing, but when they've actually seen the guy in person, they're like, this guy is a menace, and they kind of come to realise that he will actually do them in. So yeah, they formulate a plan. Long story short, that they're going to go down. He's told them where he lives, in the castle place. They're going to go down there
and shoot him.
One of them's going to lure him out with the offer of money. Bang, pop shot, game over, problem solved.
So they're all planning this out, and it's all going well, and they're like, whatever. And then one of them starts screaming. And he runs back from taking a shit, going to take a shit.
Yeah.
And they all run in, and they realise, while they've been chatting, one of them's gone to the toilet, never come back, and they go in, and it is like a scene out of Jack the Ripper. Like, it is absolute blood everywhere, blood smeared on the wall, written with his blood saying, "one down."
Yeah, so poor old knobhead who's got shit put on his Versace suit has now got his head caved in with an axe, like Die Hard. Instead of, as you said, now I've got a machine gun in blood, one down. So they're like, right, this Richard means business.
Yeah,
now.
this is when it's like the gauntlet's been laid down. Like, he's not fucking about. So they're all shitting it, and they go down to the castle the next morning, and they've got a rifle, and they draw straws on who's got to go down there to lure him out.
Yeah.
So one of the guys loses. He has to go down there. They got the money, and the poor fella, you can see he's like shitting himself, and he doesn't want to go down. And he turns back at one point. And the top man sort of goes, "Go, fucking, come on, hurry up!" So he's going down there all cautiously, and Richard just pops out with an axe, like the fucking
it just comes
like
out,
a lumberjack,
like The Shining. It's like,
and he's just sort of like, "Right, lads, what's going on?"
Yeah, like.
And he starts trying to offer him the money, and he looks at him like, "You fucking think this is about money?"
Yeah, all in all, it was the most stupidest plan I've ever heard. But they're shitting themselves. Logic's gone out the window here. So,
and then
Top Boy's in the car with the sniper rifle, which at first I thought was an air rifle. So it wouldn't surprise me with these idiots. Like, you know what I mean? And he's gone to obviously pop Richard. He's fired off a shot, and it's hit poor old the guy in the back of the head. Their crew,
which was the only bit of the movie that didn't feel plausible, but it just kind of felt a little bit dumb. And I'm not a fan of in revenge movies where one of the people on the hit list gets taken out kind of accidentally.
Yeah, to be fair, I just thought one or two things, but it was either very lazy writing or they deliberately like wanted to put it in there as a comedic effect to further on the point that these lot are idiots.
I didn't even get the feel that it was supposed to be comedic. Maybe it might have been one of those things where they had another scene in mind where how he would kill him and they
didn't have budget.
Didn't have the budget. Yeah, you never know. Like, or maybe it was intentional. But
yeah, I get you.
I wasn't a huge fan of it though. I agree. So anyway, so they run off and they're freaking out. And this is when Tough just loses it, and he just freaks out and he says, "I've got to get out of this. Like, I'm fucking running." And he legs it, and we don't see Tough again. We follow the other three lads. So you got Top Man, Herbie, and the other idiot, who heads back to one of their houses. And they've decided they're going to go back. They search the house head to toe, find no sign of Richard. So they say, we're just going to stay in the room, never leave each other's sight. So there's one point where one of them's having a bath and another one's having a shit at the same time. Yeah. And the other one's in there with a newspaper because they just don't want to leave each other's side. But we've seen that Richard is actually already in the house and he's hiding under the kitchen cupboard.
Yeah.
So they're all going about their business and they're having loads of cups of coffee because they're trying to stay awake, do whatever, and they start fucking about. So as we saw earlier, Richard stole all their drugs. He basically, when he was hanging out with Anthony at the castle, ground up ecstasy, coke, pills, speed, acid, everything all into a big bag. And he sneaks out, or they're off in the living room, pours it into the kettle, and then sneaks back into his hiding place. So next time they come to do a coffee run, they drink their coffees, and after a couple of minutes, one of them starts going like, "Is there something wrong with my face?" And then the other guy keeps asking him like, "When did you feed those fish last?" Like every 2 seconds.
It's funny they start.
And you see them all the wheels starting to come off.
It starts off with them they just like furiously all start working out.
Yeah,
because
they let their hearts pumping,
jump in and like. Couple points on this before we continue. Like, number one, the amount of drugs that he poured into the coffee would have killed him. That's one point. But the second point is, like, obviously this guy's hunting him. Tufts has run off, like, which you possibly might do. But what you definitely wouldn't do is go back to a house that he's already broken into and painted your clown face, because he's obviously going to look there. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. They all start tripping balls completely, like rolling around on the floor, spazzing out. And Richard comes out of his hiding place and he starts toying with them. He's getting them up, like making them dance, slapping them, freaking them out. Yeah. He takes out Top Boy into the kitchen, shoots him in the head. He palm heel strikes the other lad in the nose, driving his nose bone right up into his brain, killing him
instantly.
And then he picks on Herbie, who it seems to be the most sober. And I think you were thinking that maybe that's why he left him to last, because he figured if he needs information to find who, we find out there's one last person who he needs to find out the whereabouts of. Herbie's the only one sober enough probably to answer.
Yeah, I think they're all like big druggies, but I think we realised from earlier in the film, like when Herbie first saw him and said he was the elephant, they were all joking like, "Oh, he's fucked again." Like, so I reckon he just canes drugs. So he's sobered up the quickest out of all of them.
And it's such a fucked up scene because he basically takes Herbie in and he tells him, "Do you know what? I'm going to let you live. And do you know why?
Yeah.
Because you're a good man." And Herbie's like, just like smiling, like, "You're going to let me live, you promise?"
Let me live, won't you know?
I promised you.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't go back on my word, mate.
Honest.
Oh, because obviously he's tripping.
Oh, he's terrified.
There's quite a funny scene before where Top Boy goes into the cupboards, and when they're searching the house, and gets all the weapons, and he gives one.
Yeah, he's like got a crossbow.
He gives one of them this fucking wedge samurai sword. So I'd be like, I'm happy with that. And he gives poor old Herbie like the smallest,
this tiny little knife.
And then Top Boy just goes to Herbie like, "No, that's a proper army issue knife. Like, you can hide it and just do it." And then like this really made me laugh because Herbie goes, but he's in the army. And then they fuck off up the stairs.
So
Herbie,
he's talking to Herbie saying, I'm going to let you live, mate, but you got to tell me something.
Yeah.
Don't lie to me.
There's one more of you.
There's one more of you, and you've got to tell me where it is. And Herbie tells him, and he's like bringing him in for a hug and saying all this and that.
To be fair to Herbie, even in his fucked up state, he
did
tried not
try,
to grass
yeah.
him up.
He did try
which is fair play to
for
Herbie.
a second.
Yeah.
So you've got to give him that. That's true. But anyway, so he's acting all nice with Herbie, and Herbie's nearly like giggling. Can't believe his luck that he's going to get to live.
Yeah.
And then before he kills him, he goes over and says, "I want to show you something.
I've got a present for you, actually. If you want to see it." And then Herbie's like shaking his head. He's like, "No, I'm going to get it." And then he like fucks off, comes out with the biggest suitcase. So he's like places it down, and Herbie's kind of like tripping out still, but sobering up. And he's like looking at him all intently, like, you know, well, dads never know what they got for Christmas. Like, the mums always get it, and the dad's like drinking their coffee but have no clue. And he's like sitting there like a dad, like, open it. And then he like unzips it, and then his fucking poor old Tufts like just in there,
completely mangled.
Who is he?
Well, I don't even know.
You didn't like the effect, but I actually thought it was a really good practical effect, because he really looks like a corpse that's been rigor mortis has set in while he's basically in a horrible, like, he looks like he died in agony.
But he must have.
He must have bent all his bones.
He must have like tortured. Like, I reckon he caught him like running, like proper tortured him, like because of his face, like it's fucked up. And he must have like cut off some of his. Cause how did he fit him into the suitcase?
I don't know. You don't see him. It is quite a big suitcase, but he's definitely been bent in all sort of manner of contortionist fucking positions.
You say that. Do you remember there was like this random case where they found like a man just locked in a suitcase dead? They went to a hotel and
he put himself in.
This guy was in a suit, somehow got in a suitcase. No one knows how they locked it. Somehow he locked himself in and just died in there.
That sounds like bullshit. That sounds like...
But then later on they found out that he was like a spy for a government.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway,
that's like what's that old joke where a local man had been shot in the back 60 times, and the local sheriff called it the worst case of suicide he'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, of course he didn't kill himself.
But I guess.
Anyway,
my main point is you can get a body in a suitcase.
So anyway, Herbie can't believe he
starts
he
crying.
thinks he's gonna live. Yeah, he's all delighted, and then he's sort of like Bridge is like laughing and joking with him. And he's like, "Oh God!" And then he sees the little knife he had from earlier that you were talking about, and he grabs it and goes, "Was that for me?"
Yeah.
And Herbie's like, "No, honest."
Yeah.
He's like, "It was, don't lie to me." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it was." And he's like, "Oh, come here, mate." And then he stabs him right in the side and stabs him about 5 more times.
And then before he's like Herbie's giggling like a schoolgirl. He's like, promise you won't kill me. And he's like, I've given you my word.
He's like, didn't I say, mate? Well then.
Yeah. And then before, when he opens the suitcase, it's really like malicious, because he's like, does it scare you? And obviously he's looking at like some mangled like
it's terrible to lose someone you love.
Yeah, and then he's like, do you want me to shut it? I'll shut it for you. And I'm like, fucking psycho.
And then that's it.
Kills all of them.
All the gangsters and people on the list we've seen up to now, we've known about up to now.
Apart from
apart from this mysterious
last guy.
So it cuts to these two young lads coming home from playing in the park.
Yeah.
And they come and see their mum, and they've got a knife and a gas mask, and mum's like, who have you been playing with? What's going on? Like, where'd you get this off? And they're like, oh, some man in the park, he said he knew Dad. So she's freaking out, like, what's all this about? So the dad gets home, who's the target, and the wife tells him about it, and he's like, what the fuck? So he grabs his kids and takes them in the car, takes them down to the park, and to go look for this guy.
Yeah.
So as soon as he's gone, Richard creeps out of behind a tree and goes and knocks on the door.
Yeah, my name's Richard. I'm an old friend of his from years ago.
Was you in the park this morning?
Yeah.
Did you meet my lads?
I did. Absolutely brilliant lads.
Yeah,
Crackers.
They said. They are crackers, yeah. They've been shouted at today.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because they came back with a mask and a knife, so I was a bit upset, to be honest.
It was blunt.
I know, but it's a bit irresponsible, isn't it? I was really worried.
You're a good mother.
Yeah. Yeah, I am a good mother.
Good woman.
Sorry, can I ask your name again?
You can tell the cogs in his mind, because the whole setup of this guy, you can tell in the flashbacks he wasn't anywhere near as bad as the others. And you can also tell that he's rebuilt, he's like reformed his life. Like, he's got a nice little family, he's got 2 young sons.
He's got a family, he's not messing around with drugs or anything like that.
Yeah. So anyway, so Richard heads off, and the dad gets back, and the kids go upstairs, and then when they start talking about it, and she starts describing him, it all comes back to him, and he puts it together who it must be. And he tells her the story, and this is when we finally learn that what happened to Anthony was one time they were all taking LSD, and they forced Anthony to take it, and he started tripping out and freaking out, and they put a noose around his neck and brought him up to that castle.
We all got in a van and we were dropping acid, and Sonny gave him some. I was the last one. I could have stayed. I could have kept with him, but everybody got back in the van. Left him. I didn't want to leave him. Found him on. He's killed himself. He's done himself up there.
Bad thing about it, he was already tripping balls, and then they made him take another one. So he must have been like, you know, and you've got to think in context that he has learning difficulties. So what he was experiencing must have been horrible for him.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard enough for him to understand general life, let alone being out of your box. Like, you know, being out of your box is, you've got to have a very strong like mindset, like, and he wouldn't have had 100%. It, and he would have been like, what is going, I don't understand what's going on. So he just hangs himself. I don't know how he really got to doing it, but I suppose he just had the robums on it.
Yeah. So anyway, so we have that bombshell, and your man sleeps down on the couch downstairs. I guess it's like a security thing, I don't know what, but he wakes up and Richard's already in the house with a knife over him.
How's he keep getting in these fucking houses?
He's a fucking ninja, mate, don't worry about that. So he says, come, you go with me, and they drive off. They drive up to the castle where Anthony killed himself. And
he's like, do you know what this is?
Yeah, and the guy doesn't really fight it.
But does Richard... Sorry, backtracking a little bit, because obviously we've said that Richard doesn't know exactly what happened. Does Richard think these geezers hanged him?
No.
I don't know. I don't get how. I don't get how he like knows anything. Like, do you see what I mean?
It never explicitly says it, and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because like my point is, and this is picking plot holes. I need to stop doing this. It's like someone must have told him something, because otherwise they would have just thought, well, my brother was special needs, and maybe he just killed himself. But maybe because he is special needs, they know that he doesn't have the mindset to have a thought like that. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
sorry, what do you mean?
I mean that because he has quite severe learning difficulties, and I don't want to stereotype or anything like this, would they have the kind of mind frame to be like, I'm so sick of life, I'm going to hang myself? Do you see what I mean?
I get what you're saying, but I don't think that would have even gone through their mind.
Exactly.
Also, I mean, they're pieces of shit, and they've acted like that on all the flashbacks, but also, they're also tripping on acid.
Yeah.
So, who knows what they were thinking anyway.
But they probably would have done like again, I'm delving deep into it, a post-mortem on him, like, because it's suspicious death, he's just hanging in the middle of nowhere. They'd be like, we found like loads of acid in his system. So Richard would have been like, no, he never done drugs. Like, who's the local...
Yeah, good point,
who's the local drug dealers? And
well, also,
he could have pieced together that we used to see Anthony with these lot, like, boom.
Yeah, and he would have known, he would have known that he was knocking about with them. They were doing this, that, and the other. So anyway, so it's the big final confrontation, and the acting is brilliant because the camera is so up in Richard's face.
Oh yeah,
it's
so
like extreme close up, and this is where you learn a lot about him as well, because he admits he was ashamed of Anthony. He would he was ashamed of having a special needs brother.
Spastic.
And you get this realization that a part of the reason why he ran off to the army was to escape it, and he was kind of glad.
Yeah.
So you know a lot of where this is all coming from. He obviously loved his brother, but also, as much as it's fueled by revenge and hate, it's also fueled by guilt, because he was ashamed of his brother too, and he was embarrassed of him, and he ran off and abandoned him.
Was he calling for me? When you were torturing him, was he calling for me? Was he screaming my name?
Yeah, he was.
He still is.
But then it cuts, it does the whole flashback thing in the grey that we've seen the whole film. It's like, you've got to get rid of me because I don't know what I'm capable of. And then it cuts to him in the park with the guy's two little kids, and he's got the knife. He's explaining to the kids you stab him there, and I just thought, he could go mad and murder kids and
I
shit.
never actually picked up on that, but but he was basically at this point
just
he didn't want to
deranged.
be he didn't want to be alive anymore, and he forces Mark to stab him and kill him, and that's where the movie ends.
That's where it ends.
It says, "I want to lie with my brother."
Yeah, but I got to say, I got to backtrack it. The soundtrack's amazing as well. There's that Smog song, "Vessel in Vain," throughout the whole film, where it's lyrics, "My ideals have got me on the run," which is basically Richard, and these other guys, the drug dealers. And then you've got this song, Bonnie Prince. I've heard it before, "In My Kingdom," and in the lyrics it says, "I woke up with hate in my heart. I've got blood on my hands because I killed a man." And that's straight after he's axed fucking the geezer. And then he's just walking along with it playing.
Yeah.
I'm like, Shane Meadows is very good at picking soundtracks.
He is. It's a
class.
Great movie.
It is a great movie.
Would you recommend it?
Oh, I would highly recommend it. For being an independent British film with hardly any budget, from what they got out of it or what they made out of it, I think it's one of the best British films, independent British films, in my opinion, ever made, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not like from what you described, it's not a slog. It's not hard to get through. It's not a bummer. It is gripping and entertaining, and a lot of the time very funny, very comical, very darkly comical.
Yeah.
All the characters, whether you hate them or you like them, are charismatic and interesting and draw you in. Even the small bit parts are beautifully acted, and the whole film, at 90 minutes, it goes along at such a quick pace. So 100% recommend Dead Man's Shoes.
And I can't be held responsible for the things I see.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.